By popular demand, I decided to finally make a list with the 2 most commonly asked questions for each of Amazon's 14 leadership principles. And on number 14, for the leadership principle of deliver results, the 2 most commonly asked questions would be, tell me about the time when you failed to deliver something significant on time. Or another one would be, tell me about the time when you were 75% through a project and had to pivot strategy in order to ensure its successful completion. Number 13, have backbone, disagree and commit. Tell me about the time when you had an uncomfortable disagreement with your boss. Or tell me about the time when you raised an uncomfortable issue within an internal meeting. Number 12, dive deep. Tell me about the time when you had a complex problem that required a lot of in-depth analysis. Or another one would be, for a non-technical context, tell me about the time when you had to really investigate thoroughly an issue or a challenge within your team. Earn trust. Tell me about the time when you received tough feedback from your manager and how did you respond to that feedback. Or tell me about the time when you uncovered a significant challenge in your team and how did you go about resolving that issue. Frugality. Tell me about the time when you had to request additional resources for a project, or how do you make trade-offs between quality and cost. Bias for action. Tell me about the time when you had to quickly adjust your work priorities in order to meet changing demands. Or tell me about the time when you worked on a tough deadline and you did not have time to consider all possible options. Think big. Tell me about the time when you took on a big risk because you focused on long-term thinking. Or tell me about the time when you successfully pitched an idea to global stakeholders. Insist on the highest standards. Tell me about the time when you refused to compromise on your standards. Or tell me about the time when you relentlessly worked in order to further improve the quality of an already fully working service or product. Hire and develop the best. Tell me about the time when you coached someone, or how do you help your employees to grow? Learn and be curious. Tell me something interesting that you've learned recently, or tell me about the time when you were challenged to think differently in order to find an even better solution to a problem. I write a lot. Tell me about the time when you had made the wrong decision on something significant, or tell me about the time when you did not have enough data to take the right decision. How did you go about ensuring that was the correct decision? Invent and simplify. Tell me about the time when you had a challenging situation in which you had to find an alternative approach. Or tell me about the time when you had to come up with a simple solution to a complex problem. Number 2, ownership. Tell me about the time when you sacrificed short-term gains for long-term results. Or tell me about the time when you showed ownership. And number 1, customer obsession. Tell me about the time when you had to deal with a difficult customer. Or tell me about the time when you successfully predicted a customer's needs. So as you can see here, there's no shortage of questions that one might ask you during a job interview. So the difference is often being made in the quality of your own answers. So hopefully this gives you some interesting insight on how you can further tune up the way that you communicate your own experiences in such a way that it emulates on a given behavior.